Right, we're back. So a little discussion about questions, the nature of questions and some pitfalls to avoid. You'll need to develop some ideas of the sort of questions you are asking for your ethics form. It may not be completed completely, but you certainly need to have thought about your questioning strategy. Okay, moving on. Yep, so we can distinguish between qualitative and quantitative data. We've got some quantitative data here, obviously. Quantitative data is pretty easy to collect and analyse. On the other hand, qualitative data is richer, but usually much harder to analyse. In your plan, you should consider the data you want to collect and how it will be analysed. Yeah, so qualitative, more difficult analysis, maybe richer data. Quantitative, straightforward analysis generally. Open or closed questions. Questions can be defined as open or closed. Open questions are questions that require a participant to answer in their own words. They can provide researchers with more information than closed questions, but again can be harder to analyse. Closed questions collect what is essentially quantitative data. They give the respondent a limited amount of options to choose from, and as noted earlier, quantitative data is easy to analyse than qualitative data, but the qualitative data may give more insight into key questions, so it is a bit of a balance. In some cases, both types of questions may be needed to get the information required to address the questions we're interested in. So there's a basic question on how often people visit Albert Park to see Brian Clough, but you may want to know a little bit more about their opinions about the park. So you'd have a closed question and maybe some open questions as well. Obviously, if people never visit the park, they maybe don't have an informed opinion about the questions you're interested in. Likert scales are frequently used. They're rating scales used to assess opinions, attitudes and behaviours, and I'm sure you've come across them before. To collect data, you present participants with these questions or statements and a continuum of possible responses, usually with 5 or 6 items. In this case, at the top, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Each item is given a numerical score by the people collecting the data, so the data can be analysed quantitatively. The top is a balanced Likert scale. It has a midpoint, which is usually a neutral point, in this case undecided. Even point scales do not have a midpoint, so force users to express an opinion, either pro or con. There are reasons why you use both, and you may want to do some reading about this. This is from the National Student Survey. Although it includes a midpoint, any such responses are actually removed before the analysis starts, because again the people running the NSS are interested in students expressing a specific opinion. Staff will probably mention this again during NSS season next year. Yep, so that one gets excluded when they do the data analysis. This is a question in a survey done a few years ago by Teesside University Catering. The problem was that many non-vegetarian participants read the first question and assumed the questionnaire was not worth completing. As a result, the results were very strongly skewed by the fact it was largely completed by non-meat eaters, making the results invalid. This is a much better approach. The first of a series of questions asking about eating habits, an approach that avoids the sampling bias in the original survey. You should always ask questions about single topics. The first question here is asking 2 related but different questions. Do you think the guide is important? Maybe in general public health terms, but is it practical? So what if you do think the guide is important, but you don't think it is practical or easy to use? What do you answer? Yes or no? It's impossible to give an answer. The second question has similar issues. Think about how to break improperly designed questions like this into single questions. Language is important. The words used here are likely to mean different things to different people. These specific choices are much better. Okay, consent forms, etc. in SurveyMonkey. I'm assuming you're using SurveyMonkey. Again, if you're doing a survey, you will need both a consent form and a participant information form, and you should discuss this with your supervisor. These forms can be integrated into SurveyMonkey, and we'll have a look at this link in a second for a very good example, but please don't complete the survey, which was from a few years ago. Okay, so here's an example, participant information document. It talks about, it mentions the students' names, which probably really shouldn't at this stage. I wouldn't include students' names in this. Talks about the purpose of the study, talks about why the person who participates may be invited, how they take part, any possible advantages or disadvantages, part of the ethics form, all of these items. What will I have to do if I take part? And then you say okay. And then you agree to take part in. And then there's various other things which you can have a look at yourselves. So that's a pretty good approach. And that's all, folks. Thanks for listening.